Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this afternoon session. You should be with me for about the next 60 minutes or so. This session is all about an introduction to Sage Business Cloud Accounting. So it's ideal if you're just maybe considering switching to Sage Business Cloud Accounting. You're maybe looking for brand new accounting software. You're going to be using it for the very first time, or maybe you're already in your trial period and you just need a little bit of a push in the right direction, I suppose. Just to get you up and running. So we're going to cover the basic features today. We've also got a brand new section to our webinar today, which is more of a hands-on session. So if you do have any transactions, maybe you're already in your trial period, if you've got some invoices ready to enter, we're going to run through those. So we'll just take it quite slowly in that section, just to give you a chance to follow that through. Now, during the session today, you are in listen-only mode. It just means if you have enabled a microphone, then it will remain muted throughout. So any questions you have, please just type them into the questions panel. You should have access to that one down the right-hand side of your screen. It's the little speech bubble icon. It's got a little question mark in it. If you've got any questions or comments, for that matter, just pop them in via the questions panel, and we'll try and pick those up as we're working through the session today. If we have a look at what we're covering in this afternoon session, so quite a jam-packed session, quite a bit of information to get through today. So we're going to start with a little bit of background, explaining a little bit about Sage Business Cloud and really the benefits, and just a brief overview of Sage Business Cloud before we get stuck into the demonstrations itself. We're then going to look at customizing your invoices, so things like adding your logos, creating contact records, setting up customer and supplier records, also setting up records for the products and services that you sell. We will then move on to transactions. We're going to look at entering invoices, quotes and estimates. We'll pick up on banking, show you how to record money coming in and going out of your bank. We'll also show you how you can set up additional users. So if it's not just going to be yourself that's going to be using it, then you can set up your colleagues. Very easy to do that one. And also your accountant or your bookkeeper for that matter as well, giving them instant access to your data. We're going to pick up on the mobile app. So obviously the mobile app gives you that added flexibility, meaning that you can access not only your data on the go, but also enter your transactions on the go as well. And then we'll explain more about the additional support that's available to you, including how you go about signing up for our advanced webinar as well, if you are interested in that one. At the end of the session, we'll then have a hands-on. So if you have already signed up for the software and you're ready to get going, we're going to look at entering your first invoices. So we'll run through an example of entering a sales invoice and a purchase invoice. So if you do have one that you're ready to enter, then we'll just try and work through that with you today. Depends how many questions we get as to how smoothly that will go, I think. But please keep your questions and your comments coming just as we're working through the session today. So we're going to start with a little bit of background first of all. What I'll do is I'll share my screen first of all, and we'll come back to these slides in a moment. Now, the first thing to mention in relation to Sage Business Cloud Accounting is that it is fully what you would term native cloud software. So it's fully in the cloud, meaning there's nothing to install. To access it, all you need, let's say you want to access it from your PC, all you need is an internet connection, the web page link, and your logon details. So essentially you could be at work one moment, working in Sage, and then you're working from home the next, and that goes for your colleagues as well. So PC with an internet connection, the web page link, and your logon details. You can, of course, access it from a tablet and also, as we mentioned, the mobile app, which we'll see a little bit later on in the session. So to quickly access it, I've got my browser open and I've got a link added on my navigation bar at the top there. So just added like a favorite or a bookmark at the top. So if I just give that a click, and then I'm going to choose my country. So we'll choose United Kingdom. And then we're going to choose to log in. And then as I've logged in from this PC before, it's already picked up my email address and password. Obviously, if you've never logged in before and it's a PC that only you're going to be accessing the information from, then you can choose the option to remember you. So otherwise, I just click log in, and that should take me into Sage Business Cloud Accounting. So we're on the summary page when we first log into the software. And hopefully what you'll find during the session today, and hopefully this theme will come across, that it's really easy to find your way around your software. You've got one navigation bar along the top here, and we'll use quite a few of these settings in the session today. Hopefully you'll realize it's pretty easy to use as well. You don't need to be an accountant to use the software. So really easy to use. And there's loads of help and support available as well. Now, whatever screen you're on within your software, next to the title of that page, so where it's got Hi Michael in this case, I've got this little icon. You'll find that's available throughout the software. If you're not sure what you're doing when you're on a particular page, what a particular field means or what you need to enter in a certain box, then just click that little icon. It'll bring up the help relating to what you're looking at. The other way to access help is in the top right-hand corner. So maybe you don't know what screen you should be in the first place, so you can't click that little icon. But you can access the Help Center via the Help option, top right-hand corner. Again, just give it a click. And then you can click into the search box, pop in a couple of keywords, click search, and it will find the relevant areas of the Help Center relating to what you've searched on. And hopefully that should provide the information that you're after, whether it's a step-by-step guide to entering your opening balances or keying in certain transactions, setting up records, running reports, submitting your VAT return online, you name it, it should be covered. Now there is loads of different support options available beyond that as well. So from here, if we just scroll down to the bottom, you have this Get in Touch option. Now if I click Get in Touch, it will outline the options that I've got available to me. So the first one to mention, this is the recommended option because it's by far the quickest way for you to get in touch with our support team, is our Q&A live service. Our Q&A live service is a great way for you to get quick answers to your queries. So you would just click the option, it'll prompt you to enter your details, so your name and your email address, you'll join the session, and then you can start typing in your questions a bit like you can today. You don't need to register in advance for those sessions, and you can be in and out as many times as you want. So generally, any questions you have, if you try that service, you generally get answers to your queries in probably less than a minute, which is why it's the recommended option. There are other options as well if you need to get in touch with our support team. So we have online chat available. If you much prefer just to pick up the telephone and speak to a member of our support team, you can do that. And of course, you've got Sage City as well, which is like almost I suppose what you would term our business community. So there's forums, blogs, videos, FAQs, you name it. There's loads of options in there. You can even put your own questions in there as well if you want. So loads of support to help you with your software should you need it. Now, if we do pop back to the slides at this point, just want to quickly mention that there are 3 levels of Sage Business Cloud Accounting: the Start, Standard, and Plus. And you'll find more information about the different levels of the software and what features they have available to them on our website. Just head along to sage.com. And also, if you haven't yet signed up for Sage Business Cloud Accounting, there is a trial period. So again, if you just head along to www.sage.com, you'll be able to sign up for that and have a go of it. If you're in your trial period, you can have a go of that, and you can always reset your data and start again if you just want to have a little play around with that before you, maybe if you're switching from other software. So just before you transition, you can make sure you understand how it works. Just familiarize you with sort of navigating the software and the various options that you have. So that's all I really wanted to cover as far as the background is concerned. We're going to move on now. We're going to start looking at actually using the software itself, and hopefully you'll get the sense that it is really simple to use. Now we're going to start with customizing your invoices. Now, in Business Cloud, you're provided with 6 invoice templates, 3 of which are product-based and 3 of which are service-based. We'll see the differences between those in just a moment. You'll be able to add your company logo and up to 2 association logos. You can add customized terms and conditions, also additional notes as well, which could be as simple as maybe including your bank details or including maybe like a festive message, for instance, maybe outlining new services that you currently offer. But overall, it'll give you a much more professional and personalized look and feel to your invoices. Let's switch back to my desktop and we'll have a quick look at that area. Right, let's close some of these help windows. Obviously, the access to our support team, it's all included as part of your subscription for Sage Business Cloud as well. So the first area we're going to go into is settings. In settings, first section is invoice and business preferences, and we're going to click logo and document template. So it lists, first of all, the 3 product-based templates. And if we just scroll down the page a little bit, we've got our 3 service-based templates. As you'd expect for a product-based invoice, you're going to have things like a product code column, a description of the product or service, a quantity, a unit price. So you'll have those, that's the sort of style of that. Whereas for a service, it's going to have much more space sort of dedicated. I don't know if you can quite see it there. It's even quite small on my screen, but on the main body of the invoice, you'll have more space dedicated to the description if you're just wanting to type in the description of the service that you've provided. So it's just a case of you choosing which is more suitable for your type of business and which one you like the look of. You can change at any time as well. Coming a little bit further down the page, you've got your options for adding your company logo and your association logos. There's information down the left-hand side here as well on things like file sizes, file formats, and also recommended dimensions for those. When you first come into this area, they'll all just say add a logo. So it's just a case of clicking the box. And it will then let you browse your PC and choose your logo. And as long as it meets the requirements, it will just upload it for you and it will position that. If I just go back up slightly, back up to the template. So if we were to choose this one, for instance, you can see where the company logo would be positioned. And at the bottom there, you've got the 2 association logos. Coming a little bit further down the page, you've got your theme colors. There are 10 standard theme colors to choose from. You've got a little preview box here as well. So you can see if you do choose one of the standard colors, how that color would be applied to your invoice template. If you don't want to use one of those standard theme colors, maybe you've got your own company branding colors, then if you know the hex code for one of the colors that you want to use, you can just key that in. That should be easy to find out online as well if you don't know the hex code for your specific color. Finally, you've got your font and your font size. Now, if you make any changes, you click Save, and in Sage Business Cloud, you'll get this green bar appearing at the bottom just for a couple of seconds, just to let you know that the changes you've made have been saved. While we're in this area of the software, we're going to go into invoice form settings. Now, as you can see, there are loads of settings in here. So again, just to remind you of what we mentioned about the help that's available. If you're not sure about something on a page you're looking at, it's that little icon just next to the title of the page that you're looking at. That will give you access to the help for whatever screen you're on. But a couple of areas to pick up on just while we're in here, because I always get asked about invoice numbering. And as you'd expect, can I continue with my invoice numbering sequence, whether you're coming from other software or maybe you've got a manual invoice numbering system. You've just been handwriting your invoices so far. So it's just a case of popping in the next invoice number that you want to use, and it'll start incrementing from that point. Coming a little bit further down the page, you've got your terms and conditions area, and you've got your notes area. Now to add that, it's just a case of you choosing the relevant document that you want to add terms and conditions to, or you want to add notes to. And then it's just a case of typing into the box. So you can see in this area for notes for invoices, I've just added some basic bank details, and it'll pull that through automatically onto the invoices when I generate those. Now it will pull the information through automatically. I'll still be able to change that if required. So we'll see that a little bit later on when we start entering some invoices. Again, if you make any changes, remember right down to the bottom, click Save, and again, you'll get the green bar appearing. Just for a couple of seconds, it'll disappear, and that's your settings saved. Right, let's pop back to the slides. We're going to move on to contact records at this stage. Now, when we're talking about contact records, or contacts as it's referred to within Sage Business Cloud, we're talking about customer and supplier records. Now, some of you may not need customer and supplier records. You might be more of a retail business, in which case that's absolutely fine. But if you're going to be invoicing your customers and you want to keep track of what you've sold and maybe you offer them credit, then you will need to create records. So you can create both customers and suppliers. So within their records, all of the relevant information will be stored for nice, easy access. Obviously, by having the likes of your customers set up as a record, it means that when you're generating invoices, the system's going to automatically be able to pull through information from that contact record, such as the address, delivery address, your custom credit terms that you might have set up, and obviously any other information that's essential for when you generate your invoices. You'll also be able to generate monthly customer statements. And if you do invoice your customers and you offer them credit, then you'll be aware that you can spend a lot of time chasing your customers for payment, whether you do that on a monthly basis, fortnightly, weekly, even on a daily basis, if not hourly. You can spend a lot of time doing that. So sending out statements, which is really easy to do from within the software, just a nice, easy way of giving your customers that nudge and a bit of a reminder that they've still got an outstanding balance on their account. Within each record as well, you'll have a number of tabs, and one of which is the activity tab. And the activity tab will show you the full transaction history for that customer or supplier. But let's have a look at the basics of setting up records. So we'll go back to my desktop. We'll take a quick look. When it comes to adding records, if we just pop into contacts, so it gives me a list of the contact records that I've already got set up. But when you come to set up your records, you've got two options. You can either set them up manually, so adding them one at a time, keying in names and addresses and other settings, or potentially you can import them. So if you are using other software at the moment and you've got your contact information already available, if you can export it from that software, then potentially you can import that. If you are wanting to go down the import route, and if there's a chance you can, I would recommend that you do persevere with that one a little bit. You might be thinking, well, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing with import, but remember, we're here to support you. So get in touch with our support team should you need a little bit of assistance. But there's, as you'd expect, there's information on importing via our help center. So if you are using existing accounting software and you're thinking, right, well, how long is it going to take me to transfer? Let's say we've got 500 customers. How long would it take you to transfer that across manually? So if you can export it from your existing software, then potentially you can import that. So if you do need a little bit of assistance, either use the information within the help center or get in touch with our support team. Now, at some point, whether you do import all your records up front or you just choose to add them manually, at some point you will create a manual record. And to do that, it is really simple. Now, generally, setting up records is notoriously time consuming. If you're like me and you're just a two-fingered typist, then it can be a bit daunting thinking, well, I've got 300 records to set up. You don't need to set all your records up in advance. You can just set them up as and when you need them. So if you are on existing software and you think, well, how many do I need to transfer across? Really, it's probably only the ones that have an outstanding balance that you would need to transfer across. The others, you can maybe just do as and when you need them. So you can set them up as you go. But to add a record, it is really simple. So if we just take and say we wanted to add a new customer, we just click New Customer. And the first thing it prompts us to do is to enter either the company name or, if it's an individual, the person's name. You would just key it into the business name box. And then you fill in the rest of the contact details. We've got a number of tabs running through the record as well. So account details, where we can record the address. We can record a delivery address, payment details, including setting a specific credit limit or credit terms. We've got defaults. You've got CIS as well. So if you work in construction and you are CIS registered, then you can enable the CIS module within your software. If you haven't got that CIS tab listed, it means you haven't enabled the CIS module. So very easy to do that. You'll find more information about that in the Help Center. And then you've got notes and you've got the analysis option as well. So it's just a case of filling in that information. You can always come back and update some of that information later on if you need to. But otherwise, you just fill it in, scroll to the bottom, click Save, and it will add it into your list. Now, if I click an existing record, this A1 Design Services, it will take me into that record. And you can see within the record, again, we've got the tabs running through the middle, but we've got our 3 highlight boxes at the top. So we've got a summary of the credit position of that customer, a summary of the sales for that customer, and then we've got their contact details as well. And again, we've got the tabs running through the middle of the record here, so we can click through them. Remember, the activity tab is the one that shows the full transaction history. So you would see the details of their invoices, receipts, payments, refunds, credits. They'll all be contained on there. And obviously, you can narrow it down by date range should you need to. Now, there is no limit to the number of records that you can add. I always get asked about that one. How many invoices can I enter? How many customers? How many suppliers? How many transactions can I record in the software? There's no limit to that. So it's not going to stop working if you've added 1,000 customers or 500 suppliers or 5,000 transactions. There's no limit to that. Well, that's contact records. Again, any questions, please keep them coming via the questions panel. Okay, we're going to pop back to the slides and we're going to move on to the next series of records, which is products and services. Now, similar to customers and suppliers, some of you may be sat there thinking, well, I don't need to set up records for my products and services. Maybe you're much more service-based and maybe it's not set services that you provide. So actually, when it comes to invoicing, you just want to be keying in text directly onto the invoice. You can do that. We'll see that in just a few minutes' time. But for those of you that do have products or set services, then you can easily set those up as records. Now, there are 3 types of product and service records that you can actually set up. You can set up product records where you can have them as a non-stock item or a stock item, where if you want to record stock levels, and you can set up service records as well. Now, if you want to set up stock records, so recording stock levels, then you need to be on Sage Business Cloud Accounting Plus. That's one of the big differences between Sage Business Cloud Accounting Standard and the Plus level of the software. So you must be on Plus if you need to record stock levels. Even if you are service-based, don't rule out the possibility of setting up products and services, because if you do set those up as records, and you could set up records for things like call-out charges, daily rates, hourly rates, you might have services that have a set description. If you can set them up as service records, it means that when it comes to invoicing, it's going to be that much quicker and easier for you. Now, there is customizable pricing and discount options available. And if you are setting up stock records, very easy to track stock coming in and out of your business, and via the reporting option, easy to keep an eye on how your products and services are selling as well. Similar to customers and suppliers, there is no limit to the number of products and service records that you can set up. So again, let's just take a look in the software. So back to my desktop. From the navigation bar at the top, we'll choose products and services. And it will list all of the records that I've got set up in the software. Now, today I'm using the Accounting Plus level of the software, meaning that I do have the stock option available to me when I come to set up product records. As far as adding new records though, you've got exactly the same two options as you had for setting up your contact records. You can add them manually, one at a time, or potentially you can import them as well. Again, if you need to import, just next to where it says new item, from the drop down, you've got an option to import your items. So you can import your records. Again, if you've got them already set up on other software, or maybe you've got them just recorded as like a price list almost on the likes of a spreadsheet, then potentially you can import that information. You might need to prepare it and provide a little bit more information about the products and services, but otherwise you could import that. So imagine having 500 product records or service records sat there in the likes of Excel. A little bit of tweaking here and there means that potentially you could import that. It saves you having to key it in. Even if you are entering it manually though, other than potentially the time it would take you to do that, it's really easy to do and set up those records. So we just click new item. You would then need to select the type of record that you want to set up. So remember, I'm using Accounting Plus this afternoon, so it includes the stock item. If you come into this area and you've only got non-stock or service, then it just means that you're on Accounting Standard. So just a case of you choosing the option that you want to set the record up as, and then filling in the appropriate boxes. Now, I'm not going to go through all those boxes because the information it requires will vary depending on the type of record that it is that you set up. So for instance, if I choose non-stock and just scroll down to this first section, I sell this item, you'll see that for a non-stock item, I can set up a sales price, a trade price, and a wholesale price. Whereas if I was to choose a service and scroll down to exactly the same section, the only rate I can now set up is the rate that I charge for that service. Now remember, again, with services, it could be fixed services that you sell. It could be memberships, professional fees, subscriptions. Again, call out charges, daily rates, hourly rates, you name it. If you've got those set up as a service, it would mean that your invoicing is that much quicker when it comes to setting them up. So you wouldn't be sat there then with, a printed price list and you're looking things up and sitting there with your calculator trying to work out the price. Just a case of you selecting that and adding it onto the invoice. We'll see that in just a moment. Again, if you obviously just fill in the boxes and then you've got the save option. When you click save, it'll just add it into your list. So if I just scroll down, I'll choose this one here. And then again, when we go into that record, it tells me this one is a stock item. Again, we've got that little question mark icon at the top if we need that little bit of assistance. Because it's a stock item, we've got our 3 highlight boxes at the top. So first one outlining our stock position, second one our sales position, and finally we've got a summary of our purchases for this specific item. And again, similar to customers and suppliers, we've got the activity. So if you're recording stock levels, it would record the movement in and out as we buy and sell that particular item. Okay, so if there aren't any questions, we'll go back to the slides and we're going to move on and we're going to start looking at entering transactions at this point. And the area we're going to look at is invoices, quotes and estimates. And obviously we'll incorporate, you could incorporate credit notes into that as well for that matter. Now, if you can enter any one of these types of transactions, you'll be able to enter the others. Now, we will be coming back to invoices in the hands-on session. If you've got any invoices ready to go and you're just wanting a bit of advice on entering those, again, we'll run through it a bit more slowly a little bit later on in the session towards the end. Now, it's very quick and easy to produce your invoices, particularly if you've got your customer record already set up. You might already have your products and services set up as well. So if you have got them set up as records, it's really quick and easy to enter your invoices. Just a case of selecting the customer, choosing the products and services they've bought, and then you can send it. Now, when you invoice, VAT is pretty much automatic, so it'll calculate automatically for you, so not complicated at all. You can print delivery notes. Potentially you could use that as a picking list as well. You've got the facility to generate quotes and estimates, which you can then easily convert into an invoice if the customer accepts it. So you can flag it as one to convert it to an invoice. So you're not having to sit there keying that in from scratch again. You've also got a recurring invoices option as well. So if you do generate repeat invoices, so I always use things like professional fees and subscriptions and memberships as an example for this one. Let's say you run a gym, and let's say you invoice your customers on a monthly basis. So in that sort of scenario, you might have 300 members. You invoice them all each month, 300 invoices to enter. If you set it up as a recurring invoice, so you set that invoice up once, you can instruct the software to generate that invoice automatically for you. Let's say you want to do it on a monthly basis and you want to do it for the first day of the month. So you set that invoice up once and it will generate that invoice on the first day of the month, each and every month for you. You can even instruct it to send out that invoice for you if you want to. Now again, you'll find loads of detailed information within the Help Center should you need it. For now, what we'll do is we'll just take a quick look at entering an invoice within the software though. Now remember, we will come back to this a little bit later on in the session as well. We're going to pop onto the sales menu where you can access the quotes and estimates, invoices, credit notes. You've also got quick entries as well. Quick entries is used where you don't need to generate a document. So let's say on the purchase side, maybe you've been invoiced. You don't need to generate a document. Maybe you're not recording stock levels. All you want to do is quickly establish the fact that you've been invoiced and you owe your supplier a certain amount. So you could use that quick entry as a method of entering that transaction. If you do need to generate a document though, so let's say on the sales side, we want to generate an invoice that we can print or email. We just click Sales Invoices. It's really easy to enter your invoices. We'll just click New Invoice. And then we specify our customer. So let's just choose one from the list. When we specify our customer, the first thing you'll probably notice is that it pulls through an invoice address and a delivery address, which we can amend if required, as you'd expect. So it might be that we need to deliver to as a one-off, or maybe we're providing a service at a certain location. Then we could maybe set that as a custom address and just key it in there and then. We might just flag it as no address. You've got your invoice date, which you can obviously amend if required. You've got your due date. Due date will be calculated automatically for you based on the payment terms entered within the contact record. And you've also got your reference area as well. Just another option where you could maybe enter in some sort of order reference if you need to. We then come down to the main body of the invoice. Now, if you have set up products and services, I should say, it's really easy. You can just literally from the drop down, select them. When you select them, it'll pull through the description, the ledger account, the price, the VAT rate. This can still be changed if required. I can amend it. Let's say I want to put a little bit more detail in there. So let's say we'll do 2021. So although it pulls it through automatically, I can still add or amend it if required. But again, for that service, I'm not sat there with some sort of paper price list, looking that up or sitting there with my calculator. It just pulls through that description automatically. It pulls through the price and rate automatically as well. And speaking of the price and rate, if needed, obviously you can amend that as well. So you be very aware that your customers are very savvy these days. It's very easy for them to compare prices online, look those up. So your customer might turn around and say, well, actually, I can get this item. It's a little bit cheaper if I get it elsewhere. So, if you do offer price match as an example, very easy to override your prices. You can, of course, ignore the products and service column. So if you haven't set up records and you just want to key in the details of the service that you provided, you leave the product and service column blank, click into the description column, and then you can just start typing. You can even sort of format it a little bit as well if you want to. So if I do shift and return, so it's a bit like if you were working in Excel, for instance, shift and return, it would keep you within the same sort of cell, but it would wrap you down onto the next line. And I can do that for as many items as I want. So I'll just say item 2. And then it's just a case of me specifying ledger account. We'll come back to ledger accounts in a moment when we look at the banking area. And then we click into the price and rate. So we can just key in the price and rate there and then. And that's just about it for the main body. We can add as many items as we want. Scrolling down a little bit, you can see we've got our totals as you'd expect. We've got the option of our notes and our terms and conditions, which when we looked at invoice customization a little bit earlier, that's where it's pulling that information from. Now remember, we did say we could amend it. So we can just click into the box and we can add additional information in or remove the information that's there if we want. You've also got your save options running along the bottom as well. So you can save it as a draft invoice. Maybe you're providing a service over a period of time and you just want to keep adding information about the service that you provided to date, keep adding that information to the invoice. So you keep coming into it, adding that if required. You've got your save option, and you've also got options for saving it and producing your document. So we can save it and email it, and the vast majority of Sage Business Cloud accounting users will email out their documents rather than print it and send them that way. You can, of course, print them if you need to, but let's say you wanted to email that out to that customer. If you thought that was going to be complicated, it's not, as Sage Business Cloud really handles all of that for you. So we just click Save an Email, get the green bar along the bottom, just let us know that it has saved that invoice, but then it brings up this email invoice window. So it pulls all the information through automatically. So it's pulling through the email address from that customer's record. It's asking you, do you want to send yourself a copy of it when it gets emailed out? Do you want to include the invoice as a PDF file? You've got your subject line, you've got your message line. So there aren't any complicated email settings for you to enter, as Sage Business Cloud handles it automatically. Now I can amend that information if required, but in my instance, I'm just going to accept it. I'm going to click send. Again, we get the green bar to let us know that the invoice has been emailed out successfully. So that's the invoice there that I've just literally entered. It's on the list. If I click it, it will take me into the details so I can see that, the detail of that invoice. So we can actually record a payment in here. We've got a timeline as well. So we can see where we're at with that invoice. So we can see the date and time when it was created, the date and time when it was sent. Hasn't been flagged as having actually been delivered yet. And obviously, once your customer has received that, and when they view it, it'll update the timeline. You've got your options down here as well if you need to come in and maybe send it out again via email, or download a copy, or maybe print a copy, or maybe create a credit note based on roughly what's on the invoice. So you've got your various options there. But that's how easy it is to actually generate your invoice. Now, a little bit later on, when we look at the sort of the hands-on section, we'll pick up on entering a purchase invoice as well. And we'll also demonstrate maybe how we go about using the quick entries option. We'll include that in the hands-on. For now, we'll pop back to our slides. And we're going to move on to the banking section. Now, recording money coming in and going out of your bank in Sage Business Cloud is really straightforward. It's very easy to record income and expenses. One of the sticking points, if you've never used accounting software before, is categorizing them. So using what's termed ledger accounts. Now, you often find, depending which accounting software you've been using or you've been looking at, often referred to as ledger accounts, nominal codes, general ledger accounts. There's a few different descriptions for them. So they're referred to ledger accounts in Sage Business Cloud. When we come on to that, when we enter a transaction in just a moment, we'll explain a little bit more about them. Now, it's worth noting that when I record an expense in a moment, that you can do that via the mobile app as well. And again, we'll see that one a little bit later on in the demonstration. Let's just switch back to my desktop and we'll run through a quick demonstration. So we're going to pop into banking, just again via that navigation bar at the top. So into banking. When we first go into banking, you'll have a panel for each bank account that you've got set up. Now, when you first start using Sage Business Cloud, you'll have two. You'll have a current account and a cash account. They'll be set up by default for you, which you can obviously rename if you want to. As you can see, I've got three accounts set up. So you can obviously set up additional records should you need to. If you do need to set up additional records, you might have a number of current accounts or a deposit accounts or credit cards. You might have cash account held at a number of different sites. Then again, you could set them up as separate accounts on this list. If you need to set up additional records, it's just new and then bank account, and then follow the little wizard through just to create that new record for you. Now, as far as recording your transactions is concerned, so all of the transactions that you can enter, as you'd expect, they're fully outlined in our Help Center. But let's just pick on one. Today, I'm going to pick up on entering an expense. So recording let's say you bought some petrol or diesel as an example, and you just want to enter that in your accounts. So via the new menu, we choose the purchase/payment option. So we want to record money going out of our bank. Gives us three options. We can record it as a supplier payment, an other payment, or a customer refund. Now, in this particular example, I just want to record a payment. It's often what may be referred to as a standalone transaction, where there is no customer or supplier involved as such. So let's say we bought some petrol. We're not going to set the petrol garage up as a supplier. We just want to record the fact that we've incurred an expense and we've paid some money. So to do that, we choose other payment. We're going to ignore the supplier option. We choose the bank account that the money is paid out of. So let's just see our current account. The payment method. The date of the payment. Obviously, you can backdate your transactions if you're maybe playing catch up. Maybe you don't do your accounting every day. It's very, very common, that one. You might just do it the end of every week. It's obviously, that's entirely up to you. So pop in your date, whatever you want to use, pop in your reference. Now, that could be as simple as popping in some sort of text relating to what it actually relates to. It might be that you've got your receipt in front of you and you write some sort of filing reference on there. So let's say we do 2020, 12, and then you do some sort of internal reference number. And you write that on your receipt, just so you've got that option to cross-reference your transactions if needed. We pop in the amount, so let's say it's £50, and then we come down to the ledger account, so this bit here. And this is where we need to categorize what the transaction relates to. Now, when we're talking about what the transaction relates to, I always compare that for those that may not have used accounting software before. I always compare it to, let's say you're doing your household budget and you've got your bank statement in front of you. You've got a couple of highlighter pens. You go down and think, well, I'm going to highlight in blue every time I've bought petrol. Food shopping will do in yellow. Other household bills will do in green. And the idea of doing that is that you can then quickly generate or sort of add up totals for the various colors. So that's essentially what you're doing when you're using a ledger account. You're categorizing your transaction. And obviously Business Cloud will do all the adding up for you in the background so that you can then see over the course of a period of time, what your sales are, what your expenses are, and what you've spent your money on. So how much you've spent on petrol, for instance. So it's just a case of choosing your ledger account. Now, try not to be overwhelmed by the ledger accounts if you are new to your accounting software. You'll actually start to pick these up quite quickly. And if you do specify the wrong one, you can always easily change it. You'll probably start typing them in very, not long after you started using the software. You probably not even realize why you know it, but you just do. But you don't have to learn the numbers. You might know what a particular ledger account is called. So if I type petrol, just as an example, you can see it starts narrowing it down based on what I've typed. Let's say I'd bought some stationery instead. Again, as I start typing, it will narrow that list down. But let's say this one is for petrol. So we select the relevant ledger account, pop in some details, just keep it nice and simple. I'm going to ignore the department, cost center, and projects. That's something that we cover in a lot of detail in the advanced session. So please get yourself signed up for that one if you are interested. I'll tell you more about how you can go about signing up for that one and what we cover in about 10 minutes time. Now you'll find that from this £50 that I've already keyed in to say, right, that's what I've paid out. Because I've chosen this ledger account, which we've got set for vehicle fuel, we've got the default VAT rate set against this ledger account as being standard rate. So it knows that when I use that ledger account, that generally the transaction will be, or VAT would have been charged at 20% on that transaction. So actually from this one, it's already worked out that I've spent £41.67 net, £8.33 VAT. I can change that VAT rate if I need to, but we'll just leave it set to that. Again, it's pulling things through automatically to make it that much easier for you to use the software. So you're not sitting there thinking, right, which tax code do I use for that one again? If I've been charged interest or incurred bank charges, what VAT rate does that one, what's it classed as? You're not having to look that up because you can specify that in advance. So every time you specify, say, the bank charges ledger account, it'll pull through, in this case, if you're based in the UK, the exempt tax VAT rate. So just giving you that little bit of help. Now, if I just want to keep it nice and simple there, I can just click Save. And that's the transaction entered into my accounts. And that's how easy it is to record your transactions in Sage Business Cloud. Right, quick question from it's James. Just going to products and services, would you include wages under that tab? You wouldn't. You would normally just enter that separately, James. You will find information, things like how you go about entering wages. You'll find that via the Help Centre. So that level of information should be available for you. Okay, we're going to go back to our slides. And we're going to have a quick look at setting up your additional users or your accountant. Now, it's not just going to be yourself using Sage Business Cloud, then you're going to need to set up your colleagues. Now, going back to the very beginning of the session, when we covered the variations between the different levels of the software. So there were 3 of them. There was Accounting Start, Accounting Standard, and Accounting Plus. If you're on Accounting Start will support single user only. So you wouldn't be able to set up your colleagues on that level of the software. You need to give your colleagues access so that they can access the information and add invoices and payments, etc. Then you need to be on Accounting Standard or Accounting Plus, and in which case it supports unlimited number of users. So we're going to show you how to set up your colleagues in just a moment and show you how you can control what areas they can access. When you set them up, Sage Business Cloud will send out a simple invitation email to them. And once they've logged in, it gives them real-time data access. So they can see all of the live information. It's very easy to add your account to Bookkeeper as well. So we'll quickly switch back and we'll run through another demonstration. So let's start with, let's say you want to set up one of your colleagues first of all. You simply go into Settings. What we want to do is scroll down the list to the Customize area where we've got User Management. In User Management, we just click Invite User, and it would then just be a case of popping in their email address. You can, of course, pop into the Advanced Permissions area and you can choose what areas of the software you want them to have access to and which you don't. So for instance, if we were wanting to add a salesperson, for instance, we might think, right, on the purchase side, I don't want them to have any access. Maybe I don't want them to have access to the bank area. So switch that off as well. So you can pick and choose from this list which areas they should have access to. Other than that, you click Save and Business Cloud will fire out the email for you. So once they've received that, they can set up their own logon or their own password for the logon. It will use the email address for the logon. And then they'll be able to sign in and they've got instant access. And remember, because it is native cloud software, so fully in the cloud, there's nothing for them to install. They just need, again, a PC with an internet connection, or maybe they're going to be using the mobile app only. But let's say they're going to be working from a PC. They just need that internet connection, the link to the logon page, which will be included on the email that they get sent, and also their email address and password, which they set up themselves. Now, if you want to set up your accountant, and historically you may have gone to meet your accountant and get some advice, or maybe they come to visit you and they complete certain tasks, like running reports at a month end, or coming and posting adjustments, or maybe they produce your VAT returns. So historically, maybe they've come to your work office and they've done that. Obviously, we can give them access so that they can just access it from wherever they are, just the same as if they were one of your colleagues. To add your accountant or bookkeeper, check with them first of all, do they use the Sage Business Cloud Partner Edition? If they do, then you need to set them up in a slightly different way to give them access. If they don't use the Partner Edition, then you could set them up potentially just as we have just done for one of our colleagues. But if they use the Partner Edition, just where you've got your company name at the top, choose Manage Business Account from the drop-down. And then you'll be able to choose Invite Accountant. Couldn't be easier. Pop in their email address, click send invite, job done. They'll then have access to your accounts when they next log into their partner edition. So it couldn't be easier. Right, we're going to pop back to the slides, and next we're going to pick up on the mobile app. Now, the mobile app is available to download from the App Store and Google Play. It's obviously all included as part of your subscription. I'll show you a little demo of this one in just a moment. I've got a little video of me using it, just so you can see what it looks like and give you a sort of a feel for it as well. But it means that you can run your business on the go. It'll help reduce the time that you spend on admin. Sorry, you'll be able to enter invoices, quotes, record your expenses on the go. So the few transactions that we've entered so far. So let's say that expense where we bought some petrol. Let's say we just bought that petrol. We got the receipt in front of us. We could enter it there and then. If you've given your colleagues access, maybe they would normally come back to the office now and again with a pile of receipts and invoices, etc., for you to enter into your accounts. But if we give them access to the mobile app, it means they can do it there and then. If you're working from home, they're not having to pop round and post an envelope full of receipts and invoices for you to enter. So you can do that all on the go. You could be on site with your customer and you can generate a quote or an invoice there and then. You can email it there and then. No more, right, I'll go back to the office, I'll type that up and get that sent out to you. You can do it via the mobile app. So let's have a quick look at how it works. Again, more information about it within the Help Center should you need it. But if I share my screen, I've quickly got a little video that I'm going to play for you. And this is me recording an expense using the mobile app. So we got the mobile app open, we tap the plus sign, choose what it is we want to do. So let's say we bought some petrol. So we're going to choose create other payment. Pop in the amount. Pop in some detail. Choose the VAT rate. So petrol standard rate of VAT in the UK. Choose a ledger account that we want to post that to. So again, just a way of categorizing the transaction should we need to. Choose the bank account that you've paid the money out of. You can change the date if you need to. You can add a supplier if you need to. You can pop in a reference. And if we've got the receipt in front of us there and then, we can click add image, take a photograph of it. Just launches the camera. We take a photograph of that receipt. And this could be one of your colleagues, so they don't even need to pop around now and pop that through your letterbox. They can just take a photograph of it. When they save it, it attaches that image to the transaction. And all of the information that you enter is instantly stored, synced, and it's available from whichever device you're accessing that from, whether that's phone, tablet, or PC. So really easy to use. Again, loads of information in the Help Center should you need it on the various transactions. And again, it's included as part of your subscription for Sage Business Cloud. Right, now that brings us to the end of the main set of demos. We are going to come back to the sort of the hands-on in a moment. We'll show you a few more examples if anyone wants to hang around for that. Just to quickly mention that obviously once you've got Sage Business Cloud, loads of support options available to you. So you've got that little icon next to your title, whichever screen you're on, it'll bring up the relevant help for you. You've got access to the Help Center, so you can search the Help Center for whatever it is you need assistance on. But remember, we're here to help you. You don't need to struggle with anything. If you've never used accounting software before, obviously it can be a little bit daunting. You might feel a little bit lost, but we're here for you. So use the Get in Touch options at the bottom of that Help Center screen. You can get in touch via the Q&A live service, which is the recommended option purely because it's the quickest way of getting in touch with our support team. But you've got online chat, telephone support, and there's Sage City as well. So loads of options to help you get up and running. If anyone is interested in signing up for our other webinars, we do run an advanced session as well. In the advanced session, we cover bank feeds and rules. We look at the process of reconciling your bank and also using the analysis types. So maybe if you want to report by department or you need to do project profitability, that type of thing, then we cover that one. We'll look at correcting transactions, the options that you've got for that. We all make mistakes. Sage Business Cloud is really forgiving in that respect. Lets you correct them, no problem. We will touch on reporting, and if you are based in the UK, we also cover the VAT return and also a little bit of information about making tax digital as well. If you're on the live session today, then obviously you will receive a follow-up email in round about an hour's time. Or alternatively, and this goes for those of you that may be watching the recording as well, if you just head along to sage.co.uk/webinars, you can sign up for the live sessions, but also via those pages, you can access our recordings. That goes for your colleagues as well, for that matter. So if you need a bit of a recap on anything we've covered today, that's how to do it. Now, if anyone's got any questions, please pop them in there and I'll pick those up in just a few minutes' time. What we're going to do at this stage, though, is almost like a hands-on. So if you do have any transactions maybe that you want to enter, maybe you want to try and follow along, we're just going to quickly record another sales invoice, and I'll also show you purchase invoices as well. So we'll go back to my screen and we'll just quickly run through those two areas for you. Let's just get rid of that video. We'll go back to Sage Business Cloud. Again, any questions on what I'm covering, please just keep them coming. James, you mentioned there just in relation to using the mobile app, do you need to take a good picture of the receipt? It's got to be clear. So if you're going to, if you're going to be using that rather than holding on to the physical receipt itself, it needs to be clear. It needs to contain the information so that it's acceptable to HMRC. If you can't make out that information, then that's not going to be acceptable if you need to rely on it. But again, you get the option. I don't know if you noticed at the point at the end of the video there, it did say use image or retake. So you get a, you can just go indefinitely if needs be. Also, you don't have to take an image there and then. You could add it later on by editing the transaction. Also, if you've already grabbed the image, so maybe you haven't quite got time to take the photo there and then, or fill in the rest of the details. You could just take a photo of the receipt, and that goes for your colleagues as well. There's no more excuses for lost receipts and things when people are away on business trips and stuff. So coming back to the office and them saying, right, there's all my receipts and invoices, except I've lost the receipt for that expense. No more excuses. They could take a photograph of it and ideally enter the transaction details there and then. But as long as it's nice and clear, that image, then yeah, that would be acceptable to HMRC as long as it's got all the information on that's required. So coming back to entering some invoices. So we'll do one sales invoice and then we'll have a look at purchase invoices as well. So again, just to go back to the sales area, we're going to just choose sales invoice, and we'll choose new invoice. Now, the first thing it prompts you for is that customer. If you've got that customer already set up, that's great. You can either type in their part of their name or select them from the list. If you don't have them set up at that point, you've got this add a customer option at the bottom. So you can then set up the record there and then, filling in the name and address and setting up the rest of the details. So let's just choose that ABS Garages. Make it a little bit quicker for myself for the demonstration. You've got your invoice date. So obviously it picks up your current date. If need to be, you can change that. So if you want to prepare your invoices in advance, so a bit like what we're talking about earlier, where we were saying, you could prepare your invoices for the first day of the month, you can do that. You can also backdate it if needed. So if it's a case your colleague's been on site and they haven't used the mobile app, give them the mobile app. It will save you so much time. You can always correct those transactions later on if needs be. So you can change the date if required. The due date will calculate automatically. Remember, that is calculated based on the payment terms within the customer or supplier record, depending what it is we're doing. You got your reference. That might be something like your customer provides you with, in which case you can just key it in. And then we got our invoice address and delivery address, which remember, they're just pulled through from that contact record. If we need to change it, it might even just be something like we spot a typo in that address. So if that was the case, we can amend it. And for the delivery address, obviously we can leave it the same as the invoice address, we can specify no address, or we've got the custom option. Now, if you are service-based, remember, you don't necessarily need to create your services or your products for that matter. There might just be one-off products that you're selling and you don't want to record records. So if you don't, you can literally just leave the product service column blank. We click into the description field and you can key in your details there and then. You've still got the option to specify your ledger account, the quantity or the number of hours, and the price and rate, and change the VAT rate, etc. But if you have got your products and services set up, from the drop down, we can either type it in, it'll narrow down that list, or from the drop down, choose it. And also, maybe we think, actually, it would be beneficial for me to set that up as a record. At the bottom of that drop down, we've got the option to create an item. So we could create a record there and then. But let's just choose an existing record. Let's say we've already got that one set up. So it does pull through our description, which, remember what we said earlier, although it pulls through that description, we could amend it if required. So if you need things like, maybe you need to quote some additional information, I could click into that description. And again, all I've done there is I've done a shift and return, wraps me down to the next line, and I could provide some more information if needed. The ledger account, well, that one is pulled through from this specific record in this case. Although it pulls it through, just like with the rest of the fields, I can still change it should I need to. I can change the quantity. And then we've got our price and rate. You've got your discount options. And then again, it should pull through the VAT rate automatically for me if I've chosen a product service where I've already got a record set up. If I don't have that record set up, so I've just keyed in the details of a service, then we would need to choose the VAT rate and also make sure we've got the ledger account specified as well. And that's pretty much it at that point. We can add carriage. So just pop in an amount. We've got our totals. And again, we've got our notes and we've got our terms and conditions. Now, if the customer had paid it there and then, and I think, well, actually, I don't want to include this information about payment terms. I just want to go, let's say, payment received with thanks, and I'll record that a little bit later on. Helps if I could type. Then again, although it's pulled it through, I've amended it. So as they've already paid me, maybe I don't want to include the banking details on there either. Remember, you can use that notes field as well, really, for whatever you want, whether it's new services and new products, almost like a little bit of advertising on your documents. Bit of free marketing on your invoices. And then again, we've got our save options. So let's just, I just want to save that one. I could have emailed it out, or I could have printed it if I wanted to. Vast majority of Sage Business Cloud, probably, I used to quote 95%, and that was prior to lockdown. I think now with lockdown, everyone wants just to automate everything as much as possible. So there's really no cost involved when it comes to emailing your documents. Just send it. So you're not paying for printing costs and stationery and postage and obviously that time it takes to be delivered. You just send it, done. So we saved it, that's it updated to our accounts at that point. So really that's how easy it is to enter invoices on the sales side. On the purchases side, we go on to move across to purchases. Again, we've got two options. You can go into purchase invoices, and if you go into purchase invoices and choose new invoice, then pretty much the same. If you can enter a sales invoice, then you can generate a supplier invoice. So just a case of choosing the supplier, popping in the dates. Obviously it doesn't need to pull through the addresses this time because it's them invoicing you. You can pop in your supplier reference. Generally that's going to be the invoice number. And you've got an additional reference field. And again, you've got the products and services available. Or you could just key in a description there and then. Well, my typing shocking this afternoon. Let's say service purchased. We'll get it to update to our 5,000 ledger account. And then we can pop in a quantity. Let's say the rate was, let's say 250. And we've been charged the standard rate of VAT, so £300 in total. Again, we could come down to the next line if required. And similar to that bank payment that we looked at earlier, if you've got maybe a scanned copy of the invoice that you've received, or maybe you've taken a photograph and you've got that saved to your PC somewhere, then you could click the little paper clip, choose to upload files, and it would just let you browse your PC, choose that document, and it would attach it to that invoice. And then all it's a case of doing is clicking save, and that would update. And again, as and when you're ready, you can record that payment. Final one that I'm going to really quickly show you is on purchases. And remember, you've got this via the sales menu as well. It's quick entries. So if you receive that invoice and you just want a very quick way of recording the fact that you've purchased something, you don't want to key it in via that purchase invoices screen. You just want to record the fact, maybe the total invoice value. You can do that as a quick entry. If anyone has come from maybe Sage 50 account software, or maybe you're still using that software, it's what you would know as a batch entry. It's just a quick way of recording that. So in purchases, quick entries, we choose new quick entry. It's going to ask us for the document type. So it's an invoice. Pop in your date. Again, you can amend that if required. Choose your supplier. You can add one there and then. We can pop in our reference. Let's say it's an invoice number, so 12345. Choose our ledger account. Pop in some details. Say services for the sake of argument. I'm going to ignore the cost center in the project. Again, that's the analysis field, something that we do cover in the advanced webinar if you are interested. Then we just pop in the amount, so the net amount in this case of the invoice. So we'll just say £250. It's the standard rate of VAT we've been charged, so it calculates £50 VAT. If we needed to break down the invoice, so we can break it down and analyze it and categorize it against different ledger accounts, or maybe different items on the invoice use different VAT rates, then we would need to split it into multiple lines. Just shows 2 there, but obviously as you start entering the second line, it will let you add a third, a fourth, a fifth, and it will just keep on going. But other than that, when you're done, we tap save, and that's it. That's now recorded in our accounts. So really easy to enter your first invoices. Remember, if you do make a mistake, that's not the end of the world at all. We cover correcting your transactions in the advanced webinar. So please, again, if you are interested, get yourself signed up for that one. But if you do make a mistake, you can easily correct it. That goes for your colleagues as well. You know, if your colleagues are out and about, they're using the mobile app, maybe recording expenses, you might be thinking, well, they're just going to choose any old ledger account for the transactions. That's not a problem. You can easily correct that. Just a case of finding the transaction, give it a click, it'll bring up the entry screen, and you could just amend it there and then. Okay, just going to pop back to the slides. Again, if you have any additional questions at all, please pop them in there now. I'll just hang around for a couple of minutes just to see if any additional questions do come through. We've still had a couple of questions coming through about the maximum number of records you can enter in various locations. No limit on that one. So again, you're not restricted on the number of transactions, invoices, records, products and services. You're not restricted to that at all. But otherwise, it does bring me to the end of the session. If you've got any feedback for us, you should receive a little, if you are on the live webinar today, then you should receive a little survey as you exit out of the webinar today. If you've got any feedback, if you could take a minute just to complete that survey, it'd be greatly appreciated. Love to know what you think. But other than that, it does bring us to the end. So many thanks for your time. Appreciate you coming along this afternoon. If you've got any questions, if you think of anything after you leave the webinar, then please get in touch with our support team, or you, in the first instance, use the help center. Loads of information in there. If you can't find what you're after, maybe then explore the support options, getting in touch with our support team. But no need to struggle with anything. Right, don't appear to be any questions, so I think we're ready to wrap up at that point. So once again, many thanks for your time. If you're on the live session, watch out for your follow-up email. You should receive that in around about an hour's time. It will include a number of links, one of which is to our webinar registration page. If you're watching this as a recording, then if you are wanting to register for any of our live webinars or watch other recordings, just head along to www.sage.co.uk/webinars. Many thanks for your time, and I hope to see you on some future sessions soon. Many thanks.